Hello, and a very warm welcome to another session of the Change Exchange. We have a guest, as always, Dr. Dr Mol. Michael, so glad to meet you.
Thank you for having me, Ruda. This is a real privilege. Been a big fan for many years.
Thank you. Dr. Dr Mol, you went and studied medicine. Did you want to be a doctor? As a little boy wants to be.
Yeah, I did. And I think at that stage, there was a generation where you became a teacher, a lawyer, a doctor, or accountant. You had four options. Pick one was kind of the approach in our family. But I think from a little boy, always wanting to kind of be the hero in the story, for me, the hero is always the guy that helped everybody. And for me, the one degree or the one line of work that would help people was a doctor. And so I think from way back when, I always wanted to be the doctor, but secretly the hero in the story, as most little boys want to be, I'm sure.
And then you entered and won Mr. South Africa. It's not something that serious young doctors do.
No, it isn't. In fact, I remember...
How did that happen?
You say that on the night. I remember my father coming to me on stage and he gave me a big hug. He said, "Well done, son. What have you done?" Come on. But really, no, I entered the competition on a whim. It was, in fact...
was it a dare?
It wasn't a dare. It was a pair of sunglasses. The whole idea was, if you enter this competition and you get into the finals, you can get a free pair of sunglasses. And I love my sunglasses. I thought, I'll do that. Game for anything. At that stage, it was kind of yes to whatever comes across our path and adventure. So it was actually a pair of sunglasses that landed me in that position with that title. And again, it was I remember the South African Medical Journal. There was lots of press, obviously, but the South African Medical Journal had like half a sentence in the editorial right near the bottom, saying, "Congratulations, Dr. Mol, on becoming Mr. South Africa." We're so embarrassed that one of our own has done something as stupid as that. So,
and how did that change your life? It must have opened doors that you didn't even notice before.
It opened one door, and that was to top billing. Top billing was 10, 12 years of my life. And one of the judges on the show had called the producer to say, "You need to check out this guy, some young doctor who's won Mr. SA. I think he'd be great for top billing." And I think that's the door that it opened. I mean, during the actual year of the reign, the words reign and pageant, not much happened. I mean, I carried on doing locums and I carried on at the hospital, etc., what I was doing and studying. But top billing really opened a whole bunch of doors, and that was life-changing. Those experiences and the platform that it gives you, as you'd well know, just opened many, many doors.
Tell me about that. What do you mean? If you say that it changed things.
Well, before top billing, no one wanted to hear what I had to say, not even my wife. And all of a sudden you become a familiar face or someone that people recognize, and they're willing to stop and listen. And all of a sudden it's this whole idea of, I've got a platform now, what am I going to say? Do I get to make a difference? Do I get to just make this all about me, or can I actually turn it around? We talked about this earlier, and can we somehow give back or add value in some way? And it took me 10 or 12 years to figure out that I probably wasn't adding a whole lot of value on top billing. It was escapism, and it was fun, and I enjoyed doing that. But that was actually the reason I eventually stepped down to say, it's been a wonderful, wild ride. I've had amazing privileges, worked with amazing people, seen amazing things, but it just feels to me that it lacks a little value and significance, and I'm not giving back. And so that's when I stepped down and decided to launch a medical show and kind of a new era of media publicity, if you like.
Now, I was going to ask, so what was it that you wanted to use the platform for?
Well, I think the idea to bring across a message, the idea to, for me, the biggest challenges of presenting and producing is the whole idea of, am I relevant and am I adding value? And for me, being able to step down from something like top billing, and again, there's no criticism, I think it's an amazing show and they've done so well, and it's a South African icon, if you like, but for me to step down and to say, I'd rather produce content that I can control and content that I know makes somewhat of a difference. To give you an example, people often stop me in the streets and go, "Oh, Michael, firstly, I hate you. Best job in the world, you did this," or the MiG in Russia, the edge of space, whatever the case is. Those are amazing.
You had the life I wanted to.
Exactly, and that's great for a while, but then you start to wonder about the value of that. With Hello Doctor, the Dr. Mol show, people started stopping in the street and saying, I lost 3 kilograms because I did what you told me, or I quit smoking, or I went to have my blood checked and I've realized I've got type 2 diabetes and I'm doing something about it. And all of a sudden, that kind of feedback was a real sense of, okay, so people are learning something and people are changing behavior because of what they're seeing on TV. And that to me is that sense of significance, that sense of I'm adding value is what really kind of fulfilled an empty spot here somewhere.
But did you, in the meantime, also work as a doctor?
I did.
While you were with Top Billing?
While I was with Top Billing. And it was a busy season of life. No kids, thankfully. Was married. But I was traveling, and then to make up for my time away, would come back and do double shifts, as doctors shouldn't do in trauma units. But when you're working in a trauma unit, you're part of a team and you can't let your team members down. So I'd be away for a week and come back, and it's a double shift and half a break and a double shift. And did that for probably 2 or 3 years, Ruda, until one day I got up to go, leave home, and my wife said to me, oh, by the way, I'm not going to be here when you get back. I didn't sign up for this, so I married a doctor, not some TV personality or not some, unknown figure. So just so that you know, and obviously alarm bells went off and red lights, and I went, hang on a second. And then Jackson and I worked through that and got to a point where I just said, I need to choose. It's either media or medicine, but it can't be both because it's killing my wife, it's going to kill me. And at that point said, well, let's pick media. I have the degree, can always go back to being a doctor, that's not going to change. But this opportunity in television's been fun. Looks like there's some more doors that might open up. Let's pursue that only. And so I did, picked media over medicine.
Was
10
that
years later,
when you made the change and you started your own show?
No, then it was Top Billing full time. It was a move down to Cape Town. It was quite a change. I think Jackson and I needed that. There was a sense we'd come to a point where we've got to move on and move away from where we're at. So, yeah, it was Top Billing for a good couple of years, and then there was another. I took over a business in between. You would know, I mean, as a presenter, there's only so much time that you can spend working, and then there's a fair amount of downtime, so that downtime always got filled with something.
But producing is it's a business, and it's a difficult business because it's kind of seasonal and the income's not regular, and you have to control the budget and pay people and so forth. Where did you learn that? This is
on the fly, at the coalface. A little bit of experience in the past, having run a company or two, but generally, I mean, it's all brand new, and especially the show that we did was an advertiser-funded show. So you're raising funds to produce the show. You're still making sure that the funders are being satisfied that their brand is being exposed while you're still teaching and educating on the same side and adding a bit of humor and lightheartedness. And, there was a whole lot of things that you were juggling. So you're absolutely right. I think we did 5 seasons of it, and I've gone grey because of it, which is not true, by the way. Grey is genetics. It has nothing to do with the amount of stress that you go through.
What do you spend most of your time on now?
So what I'm doing now is we started a company 4 years ago called Hello Doctor with a big dream of taking first world healthcare into the third world. The idea of the fact that Africa has more cell phones in it than it has people. But the vision was to say, let's give everyone access to a doctor via their mobile phones at their request. In other words, whenever you need a doctor, you just pick up that phone of yours, and irrespective of the device that you have access to a doctor within the hour.
Do they sign up? Is there a subscription?
It's a subscription model.
As a business?
The business is a subscription model, and if you're a member, subscriber, whatever you want to call it, you have a doctor on call 24/7. And obviously the doctor won't come out to you, but we'll address whatever we can over the phone, and there's a whole lot you can do telephonically. In terms of assistance and help and advice. In certain countries, we are even allowed to diagnose. In Kenya, the Ministry of Health came behind us and they said, we love this idea, go ahead, practice full telemedicine. So there's 30 conditions that and we've obviously made sure that those conditions are safe, that we can treat and diagnose and prescribe medication for without seeing the patient face to face. So we send out little scripts via SMS. I go to the pharmacy, show the SMS, they get the medication, and it costs them all of around 50. It's ridiculous.
How has this changed you and your what you know of Africa, what you know of people, of priorities?
I think the sense of being able to give back sounds a little bit, romantic, and it's a wonderful notion. But the idea of that we're being significant. Whatever we do really does make a difference. You know, it matters. You're right. I think that for me is key. Up to that point, life is very self-centered. It's all about me. I mean, success is so often intrinsic. It's what can I gather and gain and, you know, build. But when you turn that around and say, what can I give and what difference can we make? And can we make someone breathe a little easier just because we're around? It's a different kind of motivation. I mean, there's and kind of at heart there's a strong faith basis for what I do. That's not necessarily a company rule, but yeah, for me, strong belief in what God has done for me, for my family, and there's this mandate to say, well, let's take that and let's be the model to the world of what God did for us.
Well, they say that one of the major elements of happiness is gratitude.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're so right. Yeah. And recognizing, you know, the whole idea of we're not entitled. You know, everything that comes our way is we're appreciated. Yeah.
Plans, dreams, professionally?
Professionally, I would, you know what bugs me is our life expectancy in South Africa. It's a silly thing, but globally, human beings will live to about 70, 71, you know, on average, women longer than men. In South Africa, we're about 10 years off the mark. So give or take our 50 million South Africans, at 10 years, that's 500 million wasted years every generation. And for me, not on my watch. And you know, we can do something about that. I mean, half of the issues related to shorter life is lifestyle, you know, diseases of choice, diseases of lifestyle, which means we can do something about that through education, through prevention, through behavior change. And you know, you talk about career success. For me, if we could somehow increase that life expectancy of our fellow countrymen, and if we can do it for South Africa, we can do it for Africa, that for me would be a great marker of success one day.
What's the problem? Obesity? Diabetes?
Diabetes is huge. I suppose obesity is right. I mean, the big African issues are obviously clean water and infectious diseases, but that's only about 40% of it. The remaining 60%.
So it's not tuberculosis and HIV mainly?
Those are infectious diseases, so they do play a role, but like I said, 40, 50% at most. The rest is, as you say, just poor eating, you know, obesity, yes, but sedentary lifestyles, you know, diabetes is a big one. Smoking, can you believe in Africa, smoking's a big issue. So there's, all those things that can be monitored and adjusted, and through just a bit of education to say, guys, think about what you're doing. You know, we spend so much time pulling people out of the river. What we need to do is go upriver and stop people jumping in the river, as it were. You know, prevent first before we cure.
And the personal story, tell me about meeting Jackie. How did you know she was the one, or did she decide?
Jackie, gee, the truth is I didn't know Jackie was the one, you know, but 22 years later, man, I am guaranteed
so
and dead, you know, without a shadow of doubt. Now, Jackie was wonderful. We were high school sweethearts, and we didn't get on very well at school, but just as soon as we got into varsity, we really did hit it off, and she was gorgeous. She still is gorgeous. I remember coming to that point in our lives where we had to make that decision. And of course the butterflies are there, and you know, the love is there. But I remember packing a backpack and just heading out for 3 days, Sekerborsie, some trail somewhere up north, just to go and make that decision away from her. You know, is this woman going to be a soulmate? Is she going to be a great mother for my kids? Is she going to be a great companion one day when our kids are gone? You know, all those kind of questions you've got to ask yourself, and just make almost a, you know, I hope she doesn't watch this, but a logical decision, one to sort of say, you know, is this really the woman? And you know what, after 3 days, I wasn't convinced, but I took a chance anyway, and thank God I did. You know, she's turned out to be all of that and more. Can
you remember your wedding day? Can you remember when you said, I do?
10th of December, 1994. I remember it well, yeah. I wasn't wearing a tie, in fact. I know, because the minister at the time...
That's very avant-garde.
Yeah, you know, in 1994 it was, yeah. It was one of those little, you know, no-collar ties. And I remember the minister saying, I normally start off the ceremony with a joke about, you know, how beautiful the bride looks and nice tie to the groom, but you don't even have a tie, so you kind of stole my opening line. But no, it was a very, very special day. And family still together, you know, moms and dads still around. Yeah, we're very privileged.
But then you told us just a moment ago that there came a time when you actually had to almost make a recommitment.
Absolutely.
And that sounds like a more serious moment.
Yeah.
And because when you're 24, one does these things. I mean, I was there.
Yeah.
without much thought. But later on, it's a very adult decision.
Absolutely. I think marriage changed me in the way that I became we. And all of a sudden, I'm not one person anymore, I'm two, or we two are one, in a biblical sense, if you like. And I think for Jackson and I, that moment, and we've had a couple of those, it's not just one tick done, it's a daily, we work at our marriage. And I think
in what way?
A very practical way is that no matter what Jackie says or does, or what I say or do, we always think the best of one another. So it sounds very ordinary and almost, I was going to say not patriotic, but patronizing in a way. But no matter what we do,
but it is, I think,
I'm just going to give you the benefit of the doubt and just always think the best of you. And it's been an amazing little approach that avoids the kind of the misunderstandings or the feelings of regret or the feelings of the kind of the cancer that grows, that sense of you really don't get me, or you're just out to get me. That happens under the surface, and I think we deal with that by just focusing on what's right about one another.
And the kids, you delivered the first one yourself.
I did. That was quite a moment. We didn't know if it was going to be a boy or a girl. Joshua for a boy, Jessica for a girl, and I wanted to be the first to know. And as it so happens, in fact, that's typical of my son's life even now at the age of 16. I sort of, as he came out of the birth canal, I held him up and I just stared at these two little buttocks. And the nurse on the other side of the table went, "It's a boy!" So I was only the second to find out if it was a little boy or girl, but a very special moment and boy, a defining moment. Up to that point, I was we, but it was still that sense of what can we do, what can I become? And when you hold this little helpless babe in your hands, it's all of a sudden, what can I do to help you become all you need to be? The sense of, God, you've given me this little life for a short time. I hope I'm worthy of the responsibility and worthy of the honor to be given a son and then a daughter and most recently a little son again.
And how have they changed you over the past 16 years, do you think?
I think my kids have taught me the value of authenticity. You can fool most people most of the time. You've heard that.
But not your children.
But not your kids. And for me, what an unbelievable value is just to be completely authentic. What you see is what you get. And what they see on the box or what they see in the media, if that differs from what they see at home, I'm failing. So for me, the yardstick has always been, what do my kids say about this? What do my kids say about the fact that you travel around the world and you know what color these cushions are when there are people dying of HIV and AIDS somewhere? What have you done?
And we haven't seen you for 2 weeks.
Exactly. So I think kids and authenticity, what a great lesson.
My son says he doesn't like I hou nie van my poeier gesiggie nie.
Exactly. Dis nie maar nie, jy weet. That's so true. In fact, my youngest, I think 7, hasn't ever seen me on TV, come to think of it. And I'm wondering if I should even show him the reruns.
And quite practically, tell me about your home. Where do you live and why are you there? How long have you been there?
We've moved into a home about 2 months ago. So we were in the southern suburbs, deep southern suburbs, and then we moved closer to schools just to give Jackie a bit of her life back. I think for many moms that are carting 3 kids around, all the various extramural activities, your life is no longer your own. So we wanted to change that, moved really close to schools, rented for a while, and eventually bought a home about 2 months ago within walking distance of the school.
So that was your deciding factor?
Yes, proximity to schools, yeah. So now, although it's walking distance, it doesn't take Jackie that long to drive him to school anyway. Why do you drive them, babe? They can walk, But he's only 7. Well, we'll get there eventually. So.
And what does it look like? What does it feel like when you walk in?
I think a home for me is, it's driving to my garage and kind of, hitting my head on the steering wheel because there's a bicycle in my parking spot, But the day it's not there, I'm concerned. It's walking to my home and tripping over a skateboard or listening to a cover version of Bruno Mars coming from my son's room or, stepping on a piece of Lego again. Those are all aspects that make it our home, and that's been like that in every home we've had. So we don't have a spare room. We fill up every room that we have, and each little room has its own role and purpose. You know, there's not. We didn't want to be excessive with this house. So,
there's no guest wing.
No, there's no guest wing, and you can hear everybody from everywhere in the house. So there's no sense of, you know, our doors are seldom closed. It's a lovely home. We're very privileged to stay where we stay. Yeah.
What is if you project 10 years, 20 years into the future, what's the picture that you want for you and your family?
That's a great question, Rita. I think for me the whole idea of unity, of togetherness, of it might be this wonderful romantic notion, but sitting around a really big dining room table with everybody, causing a complete ruckus and a noise, throwing things, shouting, yelling, laughing, but together. And for me that would be a dream come true. We work very hard at not having TV in our home. we do have a lot of screens, and we do have internet connection, etc. But we make an effort to meet and to look one another in the eye and to talk all the time. And if we could maintain that, keep that, and pass that on to younger generations, and have grandkids one day that do the same, and just grandkids that want to be with us, and kids that want to be with us, for me, I think that would be a wonderful dream realized.
All of the very, very best, and may it work out like that. Sounds as if you very consciously work at it, so that's half the journey.
We say by the grace of God in everything we do, so absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rita.
Until next time, goodbye.